Hello!
Oh,
I'm Louise. I own Loulabelle's Jungle, which is an animal education company. So I'm licensed to take animals around and teach people about conservation and animal husbandry. And I have a special one for you.
oh my goodness, look at him.
When I first got him, I was like, oh gosh, I don't know if I can live with this smell. The only thing I can liken it to is cheese Doritos.
I love that. We'll start off with Tara's question. She asked, what got you into exotic keeping?
When I was about 8, my stepmom had a friend who had giant African land snails, the ovums, and he was like, oh, does she want an ovum? And I was like, of course I do. So I ended up with a giant African land snail, and I absolutely fell head over heels. And I was like, what other interesting animals are there? I need to learn about all of them.
Reptile Productions has asked, have you got any tips to get over arachnophobia?
Just expose yourself, see videos. If you know someone who has got tarantulas or a pet shop near you, see if you can hold a molt even, just to get that experience and just slowly work your way up to it. And then eventually see if you can catch and release house spiders and things like that.
To add on to that as well, the UK invert shows, they have handling rooms, and I think those are really fantastic as well.
Yes, the invert shows are amazing.
Did you say you did a degree in opera?
I did, yes. I studied to be an opera singer.
I love that. I love that so much.
I've always been obsessed with animals. I was always involved with animals and doing rescue stuff. I've worked in kennels previously in a cattery in a pet shop. So I had that kind of experience there. And I was just like, well, I've always been split between my two passions of music and animals.
Reptile Production asked, what type of hedgehog is she or he?
He's a Kenrick. So unlike hedgehogs, he is actually semi-arboreal. He's very good at climbing. They're nowhere near related to hedgehogs, actually, which I think is really cool. It's convergent evolution. It is a haggis. I brought him out just for Nate because I know how much she loves him.
I love him so much. I have not kept any birds, but Lou has.
So I currently have 2 green cheek conures. One's been hand reared by me through a rescue that I worked at, and then the other one I have gotten from a reputable breeder. I've kept pigeons. I've had a raven at one point. These are all wildlife rescues that were rehabilitated. I've had a seagull. He decided to stick around for years and then flew off. He found a partner. I had a semi-feral robin at one point, but he wasn't actually mine. He just decided he liked me and followed me around.
Is this the one that you posted videos of?
He's got a girlfriend now and he's abandoned me. I feel like my child's gone like, no, I've got a girlfriend. I don't want to speak to you, Mum. He's proper falling asleep again.
So we have a really interesting question next from Billy. Of the animals that you keep, which do you enjoy the care for most?
Probably actually my parrots. Even though they're some of my more difficult ones, I like it because the amount of enrichment I can provide them is amazing. As you know, I'm a sucker for enrichment. I love it. It's brilliant. So I love coming up with different things to hide their food in and just creating toys for them. It's brilliant fun. And also teaching them tricks and things like that. It's great.
Shannon asked, is there a species that you've kept or are keeping that you won't keep again?
Yes, a Yemen chameleon. I loved him and he was great. It's not that I didn't enjoy keeping him. It's just he wasn't my cup of tea. I think if I was to go for another chameleon, I'd probably go for a Jackson's or a panther. I stress a lot with animals. So with him being so fragile, I was constantly like, is he going to be alive in the morning?
Sam asked, do you have any dream species that you haven't kept before?
People who know me at the moment will know how much I want a sailfin dragon. That's the top tier dream. I'd love a sailfin dragon. Second to that would probably be some form of monitor.
George asked, are there any exotic pets that you wouldn't own, and if so, then why?
A reticulated python. Not for any other reason than, number one, space-wise, I don't think they're overly suitable for taking out handling, because they can have a bit more of a defensive temperament and they can be a bit more unpredictable. If I was to go for a larger snake for that kind of thing, I'd probably go for a Burmese. So it's nothing against retics. I've dealt with them in the rescue. I think they're wonderful, they're beautiful to look at. but it's not this kind of animal that I can give space to and dedicate to if it's not going to be able to fit into the lifestyle as well.
Colin said, do you like tortoises and do you have a favourite species?
Ooh, I love redfoots. I do have a tortoise. I've got a Herman's tortoise, little Sprout. She's upstairs asleep at the moment. But I do want a redfoot and a Greek spur thigh. They're my two dream tortoises.
Tara said, are you going to IHS in June?
Yes, I am. I've just got my membership so I can be in nice and early and beat the crowds a little bit.
If your page was all haggis content, I think I'd still be just like...
I'm surprised. Everyone seems to like absolutely adore haggis, and I was just like, oh, they'll just think he's just like a hedgehog and like they won't be as interested, but everyone loves haggis. I once saw a comment that said, if you ask your mum, can I get a hedgehog, and she's like, no, we've got one at home. Or is it like the wish hedgehog?
Oh no!
Ferret to the nose and horse to the boob, they're up on my top, and then it's probably my carpet python bite because I've got nerve damage in two of my fingers. I could feel the teeth grinding on my bone.
That's a no from me.
We're open to the public at that point as well, and customers were just like coming in like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm fine, I'm okay. To my staff, I was just like, can you go get me 2 medical sticks for the medical room? We'll push his teeth backwards so I can release my fingers. And they were like, how are you so calm? I used to cave dive and cliff dive as a kid.
Keeping tarantulas, that's as far as my adrenaline junkiness goes. Like,
I used to be a real adrenaline junkie. I've calmed down a bit with age, but I was just like, oh, near death, let's go for it.
So, we have a question from Heidi, which is there a species that's not yet in the pet trade that you would keep if it was?
Ooh, that's one that I've been struggling with. But if I just go, probably a Sphinx macaw, because they're endangered, but I wouldn't want to obviously decimate numbers. They'd have to be captive bred before I would even go near that. But yeah, it would be lovely to have a Sphinx, but that's completely hypothetical. And
if we were going to throw all practicality out the window and just imagine that like magically I could provide great care, the desert rain frogs, like they're in the pet trade, but they're like not enough is known about them as far as I know to like provide adequate care for them yet. So maybe one day.
I do agree with you. Like, there needs to be more research before people keep them. I thought I was doing the research, but obviously not good enough.
No, I mean, sometimes I don't think it's meant to be either. Like, I think there's also like an element of like, you know, when you buy like inverts, and they just don't make it for some reason. Like, I think there's also that element of like sometimes it's not meant to be. I don't pull my eyes out any less like for over an invert than I would like my dog.
Yes, they are family, no matter how big or small.
I said to my partner, I was like, I'm not having jumping spiders for at least a few years. Like, I can't deal with the heartbreak again. And then I went to the invert show and picked up an Apache jumping spider. So, like, that didn't last long. The day I took my red knee home, I was like, I had her on my hand. I was like, oh, they're like a nice docile species. I'll have her on my hand and I'll like put her in a bigger house that I've got set up for her. So I went to do that. I like was on a Discord call, so like a bunch of people in the Discord server were like in, and I was like, look at her, blah, blah, blah. I blinked, I kid you not, and then I couldn't find her. So I was on this Discord call using the camera because it was like held up like the phone is right now, like turning around like, is she on my back? Is she on my back? And I found her. She was like on the back of my car from one of my legs. Like I thought she'd fallen, so I was freaking. I was like, the day I came home, are you for real right now?
I once got cocky with my Chaco Golden knee, and my friend was over, and I was like, look at this, isn't he cool? He darted behind my shirt under my clothes. So I had to strip off, and Gage was like, what's going on? I was like, you're going to have to take my clothes off. And my friend was like, I don't think I want to be a part of this. Giant mantids, they do tend to have a bit more of a personality, other than spinies. Spinies have a huge personality. I don't
know if you've ever seen any of my videos of my spiny flower mantis I had, but she was crazy.
They are nuts.
It's the sway with their fret pose. It's the like rapid sway they do.
Picket, she was my first, and she used to jump out at you. She'd be like, ah! And leap out. You know.
Ooh, Billy said, what's your favourite mantis species?
Ooh. Probably actually the spinies. I like sassy animals.
I like a grumpy animal. I'm not gonna lie. I think I'm drawn towards the silly and the weird ones. Sam's got an interesting question. He asked, "Have you had any animals misbehave while on the job?"
Oh, plenty of times. One was Cobalt when I was at the rescue. That I think that considers still his job, because I used to educate there as well a little bit. And she stole someone's diamond earring and flew off with it. I spent half an hour chasing this bird around the shop bit to try and get the earring off of Cobalt. Thankfully, the lady found it hilarious. But afterwards, we had to put an ASBO sign on her cage saying, "If you're wearing jewellery, please don't pick her up." Because she will steal it. That guy that really likes the animals, when he was saying he's got snakes and stuff, and he was like, "Oh, but these ladies won't let me keep one here." And I was like, "Just have to hide one under your bed." And then when he's wheeling himself out, because he found that hilarious, he's wheeling himself out and he's like looking at Athena, my royal python. I was like, "Don't you be taking mine though, you can get your own." I was like, watching you. And he was like cheekily rolling away.
So George asked, "What are some pros and cons of being both neurodivergent and an exotic keeper?"
Ooh. Well, the pros are for me anyway, it's my hyperfixation, so I'm surrounded by it, which is amazing. I eat, breathe, sleep animals, and also it's an excuse not to have a social life, which is usually quite good as well.
My go-to is like, "Do you like animals?" And then they're like, "Yes." I'm like, "Do you like frogs? Do you like snakes?" Like I'm trying to like find one that they might cling on to that I can then like info dump about that animal and show them. But if like the worst thing is like when you get that like rare weirdo that comes in and you say, "Do you like animals?" and they say no, and you're like,
"I don't trust you, get out now." I completely get that.
I'm like, "What do I talk about now?"
So normal people like the weather, right?
Yeah.
The weather.
The people I talk on a day-to-day basis are like Alicia and Billy and George and like people that are in Team Educate Don't Berate, and I'm like, they're like my go-to people.
Yeah.
Talking animals, like.
It's nice having you guys to speak to, because like I've got horsey kind of people that I'm around, but it's like animal wise I don't have many in-person animal friends, so I'm just like, "Oh, this happened, exciting," and I'll like speak to normal people about it and I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "Oh, you're boring." I'll just come to you guys like, "This happened."
Yes. I saw a TikTok the other day, and I can't remember who it was. Like, if I post this, I'm gonna like insert a clip or something of it. Like, this person did a TikTok, and they were like, as a exotic pet keeper, like going to sleep, and every time they like, went to lay down, they're like, "Wait, did I feed them? Did I change them?" Like, you're going to sleep, like just drifting off, and you're like, "Wait, but what if I left this enclosure open?" Like.
I've got a really intricate feeding schedule.
I had a question about this. Let's see.
So I go like what proteins and everything. I do have supplement one somewhere, but I kind of memorize it. So it goes like down all my different.
Oh my god, have you laminated it too?
Sheila, my white knee, she's got a favourite toy bowl that she carries around with her. I've put like a little cat jingle ball in with her. She'll carry it around and she'll start playing with it. So it's like they even benefit from enrichment like that. She gets nothing from it, which would be a survival kind of thing.
Yeah. Holly said my mum had a dream the other day. I owned this huge lizard and it ate my dog. Oh, we've got a really fun question from Heidi, actually. It was, if all of your animals' names were based off of one theme, what would the theme be?
Probably Greek mythology, because I quite like my Greek mythology.
Ooh. I think it's really interesting with like, brands like Arcadia and Habitat coming out with so many new products, like how the technology advancing, like with the Luminize, we can do more replication of the wild, because the more you can automate, the more that we can like add on to it, because it's not overwhelming with their care as well.
Yeah, because if you did everything manual, especially with the amount of animals I've got, I'd definitely get overwhelmed very quickly. I've got the dimmer, timer, thermostat, the digital one. That is a godsend. I love it so much.
I think that, like, to a point, anthropomorphizing can be really helpful for conservation, but it's like it's really damaging to anthropomorphize animals if they're in your care. So it's like that's another like tricky topic.
There's a balance. I tended to, when I first started TikTok, I would anthropomorphize my animals. I put little voices to them and stuff, even my horse and that. And because to me, that was their personalities. but I'm always very vocal about we shouldn't do it when it comes to the care, because animals are not humans. To treat them as such is a disservice to them. And again, it's not selfish, but it is in a sense. It's we're seeing them how we want to perceive them, and it's for our gain, not theirs. So it's got to be a balance. There is a balance there, getting them relatable, so people are just like, yes, I want to protect these, but not so it feeds through into their care.
I was thinking like with insects and things, I find I do it quite a lot because I like
Yes.
if I can't morphize them, bless him, then people are more likely to like have some empathy towards the insects. Like I really want my care to improve. Like I'm seeing mantis care getting there. We're seeing less delicops, more like exoterras and habitat enclosures and like nice big enclosures for them.
Every animal deserves as top tier care as we can physically provide them. But yeah, it is getting, you've got to get to a point where people empathize with them almost, because that is one thing I did find with my tarantulas and spiders that I did find helped people get over the fear of them, was the anthropomorphizing a little bit.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, like was it Lucas the jumping spider? I think did massive things for spiders. But that's like obviously anthropomorphizing. But I think without that, like jumping spiders wouldn't have grown in popularity to the point that they did.
definitely that's why I ended up getting one in the first place.
Billy said people think I'm so weird for having a snail. They're like, but she doesn't do anything.
I used to get that with my first snail. Though I did take her to school once. I snuck her to school in a tank. I was that kid, and I was doing my project on my snail, and I was just like, I got it then. The teacher's like, no, you can't have that. I'm like, it's part of my project, and put it on the side. And all the kids were like, wow.
No, when I was a kid, I was really fixated on like slow worms. I used to pick them up, walk around with them, and be like, "This is my pet snake."
I've never seen one in real life. I'd love to. We don't really get them that often in Scotland.
Yeah, I haven't seen one since I was a kid, like really young. I used to see them all the time. I haven't seen one in years, but yeah, I used to pick them up and walk around and tell everyone they were my pet snake, and I was like obsessed with them.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, look at him!
Come on, you can do it. Yeah.
Little legs.
I think it's just the older generation of thinking coming out of the trade, and now it's making room for more ethical keepers moving into it. So I'm hopeful.
More step of improvement because at least we're not going backwards and we're going somewhere.
I was like, that smells. That's what. First time he's ever pooped on me. Okay, I've got tap around the corner. Oh, nasty. That's the first time he's ever pooped on me, and I have to admit that's some of the worst poop I've had to deal with.
Okay, so the last question we have, which I think is a good one, is have you had any personal wow moments while working with exotic animals? Something that just made you stop and think about how amazing these creatures are?
Oh, I've had quite a few. The top of my list is probably going to be the sailfin one, which is why I want one so bad. Was we were boarding a sailfin dragon and she was massive. I've got a picture on my Instagram of her sitting on my head. And I've never interacted with one of these animals before. I opened the pet carrier and everyone's like, you're not going to put gloves on? I was like, nah, I'll be all right. I'm a bit too cocky for my own good. And then I just opened it and she ran up my arm and the claws are intense. It's like monitor claws. Ran up my arm, sat on my head, and I was like, your claws are going into my skull, but this is the most amazing moment of my life. I love this so much. And I was like, get a photo through my phone at Megan. I was like, get a photo of me now. I was like, yeah. I was like, it's so much pain. Then another one was we were dealing with a huge rescue case. We had to move a wild caught Asian water monitor to another venue. And my boss at the time, it wasn't great. I said that part of the reason I wanted this job was I wanted more training with large-bodied reptiles. And he's like, yeah, we'll get that. I had no training. I think this was my first month. And he was just like, right, one of you need to go in and get that Asian water monitor. And everyone was absolutely terrified of it. And I was just like, give me the gloves. Literally, and I was just like, it's trying to kill me, but it's amazing. Look at it.
Well, we're at the end of the questions now, so I don't know if there's anything else you want to discuss.
Not that I can think of. I think I've just verbally attacked you. So.
No, I've really enjoyed it, and like we've gone on for 3 hours almost now, and it's not felt like it. I've been having a blast, so thank you so much for joining.
It's been lovely. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you. This is probably the most social interaction I'll have for the next like 3 weeks. Like willingly, that is.
Okay, so thank you for joining today, Lou. I've really enjoyed chatting with you. I'm probably going to end the live here. Thank you to those of you that are in chat that have joined. And maybe we'll do another live together in the future, Lou, because I've really enjoyed this.
I've loved it. Thank you so much for having me. It's been fantastic.
Amazing. All right, I hope you have a lovely rest of your evening.
Thank you, you too. Take care. Bye. I'm going to clean poop now.